the whole thing was inspired. We have the album that's coming out. It's called The Beautiful Dark of Life. It's inspired actually by our singer Brandon's daughter, who he was one day walking with on his, or she was on his shoulders. She was probably, I think, 4 at the time, maybe 5. And they just had this moment. She was like, "Daddy, what's that over there?" And she points at the shadows, and he was like, "Oh, that's those are shadows." And she's like, "Shadows?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, those are shadows." She's like, "Daddy, shadows are the beautiful dark of life."
Wow.
I'm like what?
She should
Like
start
a
writing everybody's
4-year-old?
lyrics, you know?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Brandon just wrote it down. He was just like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, who is my daughter right now? She's 4."
Today on the show, we are joined with Dan Jacobs to celebrate 25 years of Atreyu, around reminiscing on their legacy, hearing cool stories, and the key to their longevity. Atreyu's about to release a brand new album called The Beautiful Dark of Life, and that comes out on December 8th. But if you can't wait, they have 3 EPs right now that connect to this piece, and it's a special and big concept, which you're going to hear about in this interview. And yeah, what can I say? We had an absolute blast talking to Dan. This is a very uplifting conversation, full of energy, and a very introspective look on the evolution of the band Atreyu. So yeah, let's get right into it. Well, it's great to spend some time with you today. When I think of Atreyu, it kind of brings me back to almost my high school years. I feel like a lot of nostalgia with your band. I was heavy into a lot of metalcore music in the early 2000s, and you guys were always in the rotation. And I think what's cool about these new EPs, it kind of brought me back to revisiting your music, which I kind of had a bit of lull along the way, and then it almost made me go back and see what I missed, and almost check out all these albums and kind of see how you guys evolved to this to what you are now. And I think it's really cool, the evolution of sound. You guys just have a very modern style that's almost you can feel the music mature as you listen to all these albums up to these EPs. So yeah, it's just cool to have that experience and get back into you guys.
That's awesome. I mean, I feel there's a bigger picture, I think, that, goes along with what you're saying. I feel that not just with our band, but just in general, um, there's a pendulum that I like to use as the analogies. There's a pendulum that swings back and forth every 10 years with when it comes to music, fashion, anything in pop culture, the things that the limelight is on.
Mhm.
Um, from 2000 to 2010, bands like ourselves and things, of that nature, were really popular, and there was a whole wave of that. Um, just as 20 years before that, you had the 80s, which is kind of like the pendulum swing back from 2000 to 2010. And so the emo, metalcore, everything, it was kind of like the 80s all over again, but in its own weird shape or form, kind of
Mhm.
reimagined. And I think what happened is from 2010 to 2020, again, every give or take 10 years, the pendulum swung the other way. And the limelight was a little bit more on DJs and, that whole kind of dubstep, that anything in that realm, country music, hip hop was really, really big. It's still, I mean, all still is big. But as far as when you start noticing pop culturally, um, what you start seeing nowadays would be what you start seeing pop up on social media and TikToks and things like that. You start noticing things, even like country music being we're gonna check out the heaviest country song you've ever heard, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
When did that become a thing? But but to play in what you're saying is the pendulum swinging back. So we just, for instance, some of the touring we've been doing over the last year, our band has toured with bands of our genre that have had just these enormous influxes of attendance at their shows. And we did this Trinity of Terror tour with Motionless in White, Black Veil Brides, Ice Nine Kills. We were doing arenas in a lot of cases, and you're like, when did these bands start doing arenas? When did this
It's
happen? This
full
is
circle again. It's so cool.
yeah. So it basically, I think what's happening is the pendulum is swaying back. Heavy music's coming back into the limelight again, and you have a lot of people that grew up on it that when the limelight shined away from it, it kind of makes everybody gravitate away from it for a little bit. Your life goes a different way. your taste and everything changes, but all of a sudden the nostalgia kicks in, the pendulum swings back and you can feel the wave coming back the other way. And right now we're feeling it as a band, the opportunities that we're getting, um, just the excitement around heavy music again. It just feels exciting again, which it's like, okay, something's happening. I think the pendulum's swinging back again. Here we go.
Yeah, I love it. That's so true what you said too. And even I work some production gigs with some people who are, I guess they're more like hip hop heads, but I even noticed they're getting into like discovering heavier stuff and like asking me questions like, "Oh, what is this?" It's like
Yeah.
almost like again a full circle thing. And it's interesting like how you mentioned about like the 2010 era too. I and almost like what gets put in that limelight because I realized I missed a lot of like bands I liked, like they were still releasing stuff, but I didn't really know about it. And then I'll have a moment I'd be like, "Oh, whatever happened to that band?" Type it in to Spotify and I'm like, "Oh, they've been active this whole time. I missed 3 albums." Like, it's just because they didn't get
Yeah.
that push. But yeah, again, it's exciting times. And even like I think it's perfect that you guys are dropping this EP or multiple EPs, which is
Yeah.
hella cool. Even like kind of reading your press release and also a couple like things you posted like on your YouTube of talking about it. I just want to say like I really like the spirit behind it and like almost the overall theme of the message of just kind of finding your purpose and confidence and almost using that as like just energy and power to push forward. Am I right like interpreting
Yeah.
it that way? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You want to like kind of tell me a bit about like putting all these together and like why is it like a triple EP and how you guys all got on the same like wavelength to do this?
Yeah. So I mean, there's, a lot of it plays into also just the time, like where we're at in life and the way technology is, the way people ingest music. Um, when you are, with anything you do, even with what you do, doing, interviews and podcasts, things of the such, if you're going to put this time and effort and love and passion into what it is that you do, you want people to, if you're, especially you're going to put it on a platform where the public is allowed to watch it, you want people to appreciate the passion and the effort and everything you put into this. Cause you're like, I love this. I want this to resonate with other people that love things like this. Um, our band is always vibrated on that kind of level, and we want to, in the modern playing field that we're working with, make sure that we're still getting our music out to everybody in the I don't know, the easiest, the most efficient way possible, to where it doesn't get lost, it doesn't get underappreciated. There's a lot of stuff out there that is so underappreciated these days because of things just getting lost in the mix of how accessible everything is. If you go back to, the 80s and the 90s when MTV was a thing, like, and radio and like magazines, like more, you know, tangible things became the only way that you can get your eyes or ears on anything. It made things more valuable. It was like, this was your only place to go. There's only so many things on this platform. And if you were on it, like if you could make your way on it, boom, you're in. Now the platform is massive. It's the whole world. Everybody has
Yeah.
access. So how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people wanting to appreciate you? And it's like, it's a different formula, it's a different algorithm that you have to play to to keep people engaged. um and a lot of that is because of how fast things are. You got to think the way when you scroll through social media, everything is like, you can just sit there on the toilet when you're taking a shit in the morning and just scroll through videos all forever, and you're like, I got to stop for a second and get off this toilet and get on with my life,
Yeah,
because I
your
could sit here
legs
for
asleep.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, legs asleep. Yeah, it turns into a whole thing. You realize, like, you're like, oh my God, what time is it? Like, what am I doing with my life? I'm just sitting on a toilet, just swiping through videos. Like, but this is how we digest information. Like, that is our newspaper. You know what I mean? If you go back to the 80s or whatever, it was like, that was the newspaper, sitting there reading your newspaper in the morning. Now you get up and you get on your phone and you scroll through media that has been designed by yourself, of what it is that you're interested in reading. It just cuts all the other crap out and it just gives you that. So we want to play into all that with releasing music. We broke everything up into, we have an album that's coming out, but it was slow dripped without saying anything, which also makes it fun. As part of the process is making it an experience. It's not just like, here's our music. It's like, there's so much thought that goes into this. Like if people truly understood the depth that goes into every single song, the whole way everything comes together, the meaning behind it all, like if you put the whole puzzle together, you could do a whole Netflix fucking series on just one album and every element that makes it all encompassing like come together. So in this particular case, we have these three EPs that I can't because the full album hasn't come out yet. I can't fully I don't want to expose the full ending of everything, but it'll all come together once the album comes out. Everything will all make sense. It'll all connect,
Cool.
even more so than it has, which is exciting. Um, but each EP is kind of a moment in life and explaining the journey of collectively finding yourself and that's kind of what life is all about really is that journey. It's not about a destination, it's about the journey. And as soon as you do think you've found the end, it's really just the beginning of another journey. um the whole thing was inspired. We have the album that's coming out. It's called The Beautiful Dark of Life. It's inspired actually by our singer Brandon's daughter, who he was one day walking with on his, or she was on his shoulders. She was probably, I think, 4 at the time, maybe 5. Um, and they're leaving a restaurant. She's on his shoulders, and they just had this moment. She was like, "Daddy, what's that over there?" And she points at the shadows, and he was like, "Oh, that's those are shadows." And she's like, shadows? And he's like, yeah, yeah, those are shadows. She's like, Daddy, shadows are the beautiful dark of life.
Wow.
I'm like what?
She should start
A
writing
4 year
everybody's
old?
lyrics, you know?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Brandon just wrote it down. He was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, who is my daughter right now? She's 4, and just like this super just powerful kind of like shadows of the beautiful dark of life. And it was just like, so
Yeah.
that was kind of the like he was like, this was just it's so innocent. What's so powerful about it is that it was so innocent. You know what I mean? Like this 4 year old girl who doesn't even know anything about life just saw that, and just from her feelings and the little vocabulary that she knew, like this is what came out. And that was such a powerful statement that we're like, we got to run with this. Like there's something, that's kind of the seed of what's really going on here. And
That's so
that's
beautiful, man. That's
yeah.
awesome to hear. That gave me like another layer of appreciation of something I was already appreciating, you know? Like I almost got goosebumps hearing that story and everything. It's super cool. And even I just like kind of hearing on your YouTube channel you guys talk about one of the EPs. I feel like there's just like this special camaraderie about it, like within the band. It seems like you're all kind of collabing and writing together, and even just it's almost like an unspoken energy I was feeling when you guys were talking about it. Almost like you have these powerful intentions towards this piece you're making too. And would I be right to like kind of get that feeling from you guys? It seems like you guys kind of got like a breath of like new energy going into this work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think right now, especially having where we're currently at with our lineup in the band, having our drummer Kyle Roast in the band as well, and just where our heads are at as far as the way that we go about writing and stuff right now. There's just such a incredible energy between all of us that is super exciting and really fun to work with. I mean, we've the one thing we've learned over the years from touring and working with other bands, other producers, and just seeing how other people do things is how interesting and special our situation is. A lot of bands, there's certain, and to be, to each their own. Everybody has their own situation that works for them in any regards of any industry, and you have to go with that. Whatever that is for you, like you have to go with that. With our band, it's a very communal thing. It's very like everybody has a equally valuable input on everything that we do, and we value everybody's even the largest amount to the tiniest bit of information, because the value of the largest down to the smallest can be astronomical, and you have to respect that. And if you appreciate that and you allow that, it's mind-blowing the end results that come out of this. Like our writing process, just to break it down, is we go into a studio. Everybody in our band has already been writing stuff, whether you're sitting in your car and an idea comes in, you hum it to your phone, or you're in the shower and you're scrubbing your back and you're like, oh, I have this idea, and you scrub it and you sing it in your phone, or you start humming some sick riff or breakdown. Dun, 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 dun. This is gonna be the sickest riff ever. I fucking got
Yeah.
this with the shower playing in the background. You never know how it's gonna start, you know. But you have this. Everybody has their own thing. Some of the guys in our band, like Travis, our guitar player, and Kyle, our drummer Kyle, are people that will they're not as much like they're more focused on like the riff and like the groove, and they'll actually go and record this and bring it in to like listen to this, as
Mm,
opposed to like Brandon, myself, or Porter that are more like we'll come up with a melody or an idea, a concept, and bring that in. So we go into the room and you have everybody who's going to be participating that day, whether it be a producer, say John Feldman, who's involved, all five members of our band always. Occasionally another songwriter, people that we appreciate that we want to not write a song for us, but be another ear in the room, be somebody that
mm,
like will hear something that we're not hearing about our band that we're like, I didn't see us that way, you know, like I didn't know that I didn't realize that we could be that way, or um, I don't know, it just brings a fresh flavor into the room. It can be really stimulating. But also, which is cool about that is that if you don't like that, you don't have to use it. You know, it's
mhm.
just to stimulate ideas. You just never know. But
Yeah.
so we go in there. Everyone has their ideas. Everyone we do a round robin. Everyone goes in there and they play their riff. They play their whatever they're recording, and maybe you have a couple songs, you know. And now if you're in a room with five, six, seven people and everyone's throwing out their ideas, we're like, okay, what are we feeling? You know, like we're feeling this person's idea. Okay, let's start with that one because we have like 15 ideas and we love most of these. Like we have an album almost right here if we just follow through with all this. But where do we start? What are we feeling right now in this moment? We're feeling this song. Okay, let's go. Because the technology, you have everything set up to where drums are set up already. The vocal booth is set up. We have, you know, we can just plug in guitar amps and stuff and go using Kempers and things like that that are digitally, you know, easily to manipulate really quickly. To initially just start with a demo. If we have whatever it starts with, we're like, we like this idea. Maybe it's a riff. All right, you know, whoever came up with the riff, it doesn't matter if it's me or Travis, the guitar players. It could be Brandon, it could be Porter, it could be whoever. There's no ego in the room. It's just like where is this who's going to plant the seed? Like you're planting it. All right, you came up with that riff. Sit down and record it. What's the click?
Mm,
What's the vibe? What's the tempo?
nice.
Okay, let's go through it. This is the tempo. Cool. All right, record that riff. Oh, now that we got it, guys, I have an idea for drums. Okay, what do you think, Dan? Like, I think this. Travis jumps in. Oh, you know what? I think, you know what? What if we took that idea, but we changed it and did this to it? Like, oh, this is super cool. Now everybody's like getting this creative like energy going, and we just start going. Whatever people come up with, you just jump in the booth, lay it down. It doesn't matter who you are in the band. If you're the drummer and you have a singing part, like I have this idea for a melody, cool. Jump in the booth and lay it down, and just record it. We
Nice.
just build out this demo, and once you just people start getting excited about other people's creativity, about these ideas. You're like, oh my God, I did not think of this like that. That is so interesting. Holy shit, my wheels are turning in this other way now. Now I have to like rethink this whole song in such an exciting way. And you can feel this build. And we just lay this down until you get this really cool demo that's not the finished song, but it's enough where you're like, we've done enough to where like that song's cool. Let's put that aside. What's next? Let's do it again and
Oh
again and
yeah.
again and again. And
Mm.
then once we have this like arsenal of songs, we're like, now let's pick the ones that we like and let's finish them. Now we sit down and you get the tone. Then you get the, you know, the perfect lyric, the perfect, you know, violin or whatever the fuck you want to put in there to make it like come to life, whatever it needs, you know?
Yeah, dude, that sounds like such a special process to do that. And even I can tell by you explaining it that there's excitement in your voice. And I think that's so cool, especially like Atreyu being a 25-year-old band, you know, like I've met some people in bands who kind of like legacy bands, and you can tell them going into albums, sometimes they feel like it's like, okay, it's a job. I need to come up with a single. And it's just like the they're kind of like numb to the process, where if just you explaining like what Atreyu does sounded like so cool, and like again, like in your voice there was like so much excitement about everybody coming together. It's almost like this big collaboration party, and I think that's fucking awesome, man.
It's exciting because and it's something I think it's really inspiring, not just for ourselves and our band, but for anybody like to understand this concept. Like you, like some people like will sit in a room like that and can be super intimidating, whether it be at a job. You're at a job and you're in this meeting with a bunch of people and you're really intimidated for whatever reason. Maybe you're new and like you feel like maybe you don't have the value that these other people have because they've been here longer than you, or whatever the situation is. But the thing is, it's like if you have an idea that like you feel it and you're like, dude, I know there's something cool about this idea, just say it, just throw it out into the room. And sometimes that one little like person that's sitting in the corner that's not saying anything the entire time, and at the very end where we're kind of like, man, I don't know how to like bring this song together, something just feels off. They're like, what if we did this? And you're like, boom, like
Yeah,
holy
it
shit,
all connects and everything.
whoa,
And
like
yeah.
everybody in the whole room is like, oh my god, you just ran through everyone and just slam dunked this fucking idea. And everyone's like, holy shit, we did not think of the song like that. Everybody stop what you're doing. Holy shit, grab this instrument, get this, go, 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 all hands on deck. This is the greatest idea. This is what we needed. And that person now feels like $1 million, who was sitting
Mhm.
there quietly in the corner, who you thought could potentially be the most worthless person ever. And they just literally changed the whole game. And it's almost like their idea was the most valuable thing. Even though they didn't create everything else, they shifted everything in the right direction. And that was it. And like, that is super exciting about the writing process for us, is that like, because nobody has the egos, everybody is there on the same page. Everybody is an even like member of what we do. Like nobody's like, you get way more money for this and you get a little cut for that. And if you write more over here, you're gonna get more. Like when you start cutting things up like that in our sort of situation, it makes people feel uncomfortable, makes you feel devalued, or more like, or that you're there because you're getting paid, that you're more valuable than somebody else. And like in certain scenarios, maybe that works for people and you got to do that. But for us, what works creatively the best, that feels the best, is that we're all on the same page and we all allow that creative process to just flow and allow every voice to be heard. And democratically, if we don't like an idea, but like, guys, I really think this idea is cool, and we're like, well, what does everybody else think? And we're like, well, the other four members are like, we're not really feeling it. It's like, all right, fine, no big deal. If you guys aren't liking
Yeah.
it, I'm not going to force this. Like if nobody's feeling this, we're not feeling it. I shouldn't have to sell it that hard to get the whole
Mhm.
band to like just be like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like if it sounds cool, it's going to sound cool. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it might be, just takes a little selling because people just can't digest it. Maybe you have to actually go physically play it or something to like
Yeah. Or
get it
even
to be
an idea
digested.
for a different song, or something like that as well.
Sometimes it's like, hold on, that's really cool. I don't know if that works in this song. Save that for over here. Boom, now you have a whole nother song. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's how it goes down.
Yeah, I think that it's so cool. Like, again, this process, and it even feels like you kind of build each other just like morally and everything. And I notice myself too when I'm working on something creative. Like the best creativity comes out of me when my mind is happy and I'm like kind of loose and stuff like that. So it's cool that like to hear you guys like kind of like encourage each other like that and everything. As I'm sure like with a lot of different bands, not to like just generalize like every band, but there's certain egos involved where one person wants to be like the sole writer, like idea man, where you guys
Sure.
just seem like a big happy family all coming together, making a big hug, and then all of a sudden a song appears type of thing. And it's
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean I mean, yeah, it really is. It's I mean, this deep into our career, like I'm like it's because you never think when you're first starting like how long your career is going to go, or what any of that means to anybody or anything. I remember people asking us when we were releasing our album, The Curse, in 2004, like, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? And you're like, I don't know. I mean, hopefully still here. Like, I just enjoy what I do. I don't want to not do this anymore. Hopefully not doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
to be doing it for 25 years, it's just like, we just fucking love doing it. It's just love doing it. Like that's at the end of the day, it's like, we do it because we love it. And there's nothing else that matters really. And like, and when you, you know, get away from that, like when you try to do anything else, when it's like, we need to write the big single, we need to do whatever, like it feels empty. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right. It's when you just like, fuck it, I just want to write what I fucking love. Like I'm listening to this kind of music right now, and I want to bring that kind of music into this kind of music, and let's just fucking have some fun with it. And that's when shit just starts getting weird, and that's when you start blending genres, and that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's when you find your true self and your true voice as an artist as well. And is there anything, like, speaking of the curse, is there anything that you would tell yourself in the past about this journey you were about to go on? Like any advice you give that Dan who made the curse, like from Dan now?
Oh man. I mean, it'd be a totally different album, I think, if we did it now compared to then. It's just because of the experience that I can't I can't take back, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that and I mean that in a very positive way, you know? I mean, the more you go through life, the more you digest and learn, and you can't just unlearn all this information, all these experiences. We've worked with a lot of different producers, toured with so many incredible bands all over the world and so many different cultures. I mean, there's so much information that we've gathered that's so valuable. And you cut out the stuff you don't like, you keep the stuff you do, and that collectively makes the ultimate version of you.
Mhm.
So if we were to, if I was to go back and do it all again, um, I don't know, we would probably just try to make it sound even bigger and more large. There'd be more production on it. I mean, there would probably be all the violins and saxophones and everything
Mhm.
you can possibly imagine to just make it sound like the biggest band sonically on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's so we listen to that kind of stuff now, and it's so raw and like it's so just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, and like that's cool. Like there's something super cool, and like there's something that's where a lot of the greatest bands on the planet like they came from, just to an extent that but there's just something so fun about I don't know, production, I guess, is the overall way of putting it. But if I could go back, I would be more in depth with the production and stuff, and just making things be even more grandiose. So.
Yeah, that's cool. And obviously, like you've such a vet now with songwriting and touring and everything. Just this year you toured with like Godsmack and Iron Maiden and stuff. And
Yeah,
even
it's
like
weird.
going back to again to I love like reminiscing on shit. So it's like going back
Sure,
to
whatever you got.
the old Dan, like I guess starting in this band to um did you have like almost like how did it feel to like almost like transition from being like a little band probably playing like the little bars and everything to all of a sudden like getting these singles out on like whether it's like Headbangers Ball or Much Loud in Canada and just like it seems like you guys kind of like skyrocketed like real quick and all of a sudden you're doing bigger venues and like fast forward again like tours like with Iron Maiden and like throughout your whole history like you've these aren't like your first time like being with these legacy acts and huge arenas and stadiums and stuff like that. Did you have like any like I guess like internal shock like jumping into the deep end or anything like that?
Um, Sorta. Like it was. There's a few moments that have stood out where it was like, whoa, this is kind of a shock. Some of it's these cool opportunities come up, but then when you get into it, it's like not as crazy initially as you think, and it kind of wells up, and it almost happens so gradually, at least the way it feels to us. It happens so gradually that like when it does happen, you're kind of like, well, of course, like why wouldn't this happen now? We've been working so hard, we've put so much time in, like why wouldn't this be the next step? But at the same time, now because we've done this for so long, you've also seen how the ebbs and flows of your career can happen, and how like these moments are more interesting and more special than you realize. I mean, for us, like a really I mean, there was like these certain little kind of like pivoting moments. I mean, us getting signed to Victory Records back in 2001, I think it was. That was a whole weird thing where like we recorded like a demo basically, and we sent it out to every record label in like the hardcore, metalcore, whatever. That term didn't even exist yet at the time.
Mhm.
We sent it out to every label you can think of, and none of them responded except for Victory Records, who we didn't send one to because we thought they were like just above what we were shooting for. So we just
Oh
didn't.
wow.
Somehow somebody that knew somebody at Victory found us on the internet. I don't know statistically if this is a fact, but timing wise, we could potentially be the first band that ever got signed and discovered because of the internet.
Oh wow.
2001, we're talking like the OG internet days. Like somebody found our website, found our song, and gave it to somebody at Victory, and they contacted us, and we thought it was a joke, and we told them to fuck off because we were
Yeah,
like
this is like right before MySpace too, I believe. Like
right
maybe
before
like a
MySpace,
year
before
or
any of
two.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was before any of this. So it did cell phones weren't even really a thing. Like it just like it was internet was just such a new thing. So that was kind of a weird thing. We told them like fuck off, like this doesn't make any sense. They hit us back. They're like, no, no, this really is Victory Records. We want to sign you. We're like, okay. They're like, they're like, we want to come out and see you play though. They basically want to like, are you the real deal? And we're like, well, what does that mean? We're like, well, what are you playing next? We're like, well, in 2 weeks we have two shows. We have one, we're playing a party in Lake Elsinore, California. It's us and this band called Avenged Sevenfold. We're playing this beach party or whatever. And then the next day
Wow.
we're playing with a band called Botch at Chain Reaction. If you want to come see us play, and they're like, okay. This girl Kathy, she was the one that our contact. She came out, saw us play, and was like, "Oh, you guys are the real deal," and then signed us. And we're like, "Holy shit, we're getting signed to Victory Records! Like, what the fuck's going
Damn.
on?" So then it fast forward there. The next thing was like getting flown out to New York or South River, New Jersey. It was our first time ever. Like none of us had been anywhere before. Now we're flying across the country to play mute to record an album and go to New York City for the first time. It was like, holy crap! Like this is wow. Like music brought us to the other side of the country. And then it wasn't like we went on tour and stuff, and it was kind of this slow, like whatever build. Got up to our first headlining tour in 2003. Went on Europe for our first time 2003. Our first headliner was us. Under Oath was opening. God forbid, Darkest Hour. We were playing to like
Nice.
300 to like 500 people a night. And then we
Wow.
released the Curse, and that's when shit like I'll end it with that. But that's when we released the Curse. That's when shit got fucking wild, where we felt this noticeable like jump. Where like at the time there was Virgin Megastore or whatever that was doing like selling CDs and albums and whatnot at this mall by this outdoor mall called the Block. It was this massive outdoor mall. um, we were supposed to do a signing there on the day that our album came out. I think it was like June 24th, 2004. We're supposed to do a signing for people and us, a band, a metalcore band that, again, that term didn't exist yet, but like that aggressive band at the Virgin Megastore, like it was just like this was like the poor and the rich. Like it was
Yeah.
asking poor people to come to some like bougie thing and like be the entertainers or something. We're like, you sure you want us there? Like we don't fit there. We're this like hardcore or whatever weird obscure band, and you want us to come to Virgin and do a signing for our new album that's dropping? We're like, nobody's gonna be there. This is gonna be super awkward. Like whatever. And I remember getting out of my car and walking up. And as we're walking up, I could see, like, all of a sudden, I could see a couple people in front of the store. I was like, oh, there's some people here. And as I started getting closer, I realized that the line just kept going and going and going and wrapped all the way around the fucking mall.
Wow.
Like, we like to this day, I'm like, that is one of the craziest things that's ever happened to our band. We went in there and signed for 5 hours.
Holy
we
shit.
had to, we had to have like breaks. Like we've never to this day, we've never had an experience like that where we had a 5 hour long signing where there was like a mile long people wrapped around this mall to come see our screamy band. I'm like
Yeah.
what? Like
There
it
was
was a
like
weird. That was a, you could feel the pendulum swinging, man. That was when it was like shit was happening.
That's so cool to hear the story because like I even remember around when the curse came out too. I noticed a bunch of people in my high school who weren't really into like heavy music and mainly girls all started listening to Atreyu, and became like the band. If I wanted to play like something with like screaming at a party that wouldn't scare them away, I could always put on Atreyu. I don't know, you
Yeah.
just kind of like tapped into like,
Gateway band.
yeah, like all these teenagers, and it's so cool to hear that story of like the record store because that kind of lines up in my memory of nostalgia with you guys and everything. But yeah, I know I'm going a little over time. Can I ask you one more question before we go, or do you have like another meeting?
If it's quick, yeah, sure, why not?
Okay, yeah, just I guess we get a lot of different like aspiring like creatives listen to these segments as well. If somebody was in a band and they're trying to like kind of like break out of the garage and take their first step into the industry, would you have any like simple advice for that? I know it's like a bigger topic, but this is kind of like a signature question I ask every time. But
Oh man, it's a tough one, but like you just got to get out there. You just got to get in front of people, and like I think a lot of it is showing that you're dedicated and that you're passionate and that you want it really bad. When you put that effort into it, you got to think about it. If you're trying to get if you're trying to not do it yourself, you're trying to get a record label or somebody management people to back you up. What do people are going to be looking for is they want something that's not going to be too difficult. They don't want some grind. Like not that it's not going to be work, but like they don't want something where like hopefully we can get people to like this band. They want something where it's like this band is working really hard. They're already got some momentum behind them. They're already booking shows. They're already doing stuff. This is a band that's like showing that they really, really want this. And they're not just kind of lazy and like we just want somebody to like get us somewhere. It's like this band's going to do it whether somebody gets on the train with them or not. So if you put the effort in, whether it be to practicing and making sure you are the best version of yourself you can, to educating yourself, whether it be going to concerts and watching big bands, watching what they do, watching the big bands that you, more importantly, watching the big bands that you like, so you get like the most real like inspiration, but also even bands that you don't like. And it's not about whether you like their music or not. It's about what it is that they're doing that is attracting people and that is making their career successful. If you're trying to build a successful music career, it doesn't matter what genre of music it is. Look at other styles of music, look at other artists that are successful and learn from them. Don't tunnel vision yourself to one industry or anything like that. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. You can be, if you're a band, there's so many elements to being a band. Go look at clothing lines because you're selling merch as a band. Go look at clothing lines and seeing what clothing lines that you like that resonate with you and your culture are doing, and take those ideas and create your own versions of that and implement that into your merch and into your band. And like, same thing with the music, same thing with everything. Like, find the parallels, find the things that are already have won and been successful, and pull little pieces of all of them and collectively make your recipe. So you're not stealing anyone's recipe, you're making your own. You're taking, not stealing, you're taking ingredients and creating your own recipe.
Awesome, Dan. Well said. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate all your energy and enthusiasm. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And
You too.
yeah, congrats on the 25 years. And we're going to do this again at the 50th, you know? So I'll
That's
see you
right.
then. Yeah.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Sean.
night.
You too. Take it easy.
Thanks again to Dan for spending time with us today. Like we mentioned, The Beautiful Dark of Life is coming out on December 8th, and you can check out 3 EPs right now that lead up to this amazing work. And it's a beautiful time to be an ATREYU fan. Look at all this content you guys get. Absolute legends who are still going strong. And speaking of legends who keep me going strong, we can't get out of here without thanking all of you who are signed up to our Patreon page. First up, my guy Mike Carniello of the Testing with Mike YouTube channel. If you're into technology, electronics, how they work, and most importantly, how to fix them, check out Testing with Mike on YouTube. Another big thanks to the lovely Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd. Beyond being the host of Top 10 Nerd and speaking to millions of subscribers, Amanda has her very own YouTube channel. You should check it out. Type in Amanda McKnight and join her as we celebrate comic books, video games, movies, and all things nerdy. That's Amanda McKnight on YouTube. Another big thanks to the wonderful Jenny Potter, the legend Devin McBride, my favorite soul singer Saber, and last but not least, Francis Coffer, aka my mom. If you want to support the show and get all these episodes raw, uncut, early, unedited, right when I'm done the Zoom call, I just post them. You can go to patreon.com/thecreativeimbalance. And beyond having my thanks, you'll get to go to bed at night and sleep soundly, knowing you're a badass motherfucker who supports raw, uncut, independent media. And nobody can take that away from you. You hear me? With that being said, we got a lot more episodes coming your way in the next few weeks. Appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.